Riwala, CEO, Wockhardt Foundation, Dr. Suchin Bajaj, Founder, Director, Ujala Cygnus Hospitals, Mr. Ajay Gambhir, National Tech Nutrition Board, Niti Aayog, Dr. Vivek Gupta, Senior Interventional Cardiologist, Apollo Hospitals, Delhi, Mr. Praveen Karn, Head Group CSR, Spark Minda, Ashok Minda Group, Mr. Ramesh Kumar Sajwani, Vice President CSR FCO Tokyo General Insurance Company Limited, and Mr. Sagar Kaushik, Founder, Unspoken and Pleasance Right Foundation. So welcome you all. Thank you so much to be part of this session. Let's start it.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. KK Upadhyay. I have been with the FICCI and a lot of other organizations and have worked directly in health. Health is one of the activities when we analyze the CSR data. After education, health is the activity where most of the money has been spent to the tune of about 29%. And the Sustainable Development Goals address it in a big way. Until now, health has been discussed in a very different way. Before the COVID, we used to spend about 1% of our GDP on health. And there has been a lot of questions, how much we should spend, where we should spend, and what type of technology, what type of other things should be there in health. Today, we are very lucky to have such a great panel, and especially Sir Dr. Huzaifar Khorakiwala. He's an industrialist, philanthropist, author, orator, peacekeeper, singer, and social work. More than that, he's a great humanitarian. He heads Wockhardt Foundation, which runs several programs in health, education, water, and sanitation across the breadth of the country. He has received many prestigious awards and titles, one of the recent ones being knighthood, His Highness. He has been appointed as the Peace Ambassador for South Asia by the International Association of Educators for World Peace, an affiliate body of the United Nations. He is also the recipient of 13 honorary doctorates. We are so lucky to have you, Dr. Huz. It has been always a pleasure to listen to you. When I was with FICCI, we had pleasure of meeting you and listening you directly. I think we are so lucky. I would like you to address us. Like, what has been this COVID done to healthcare, and what will be the situation of healthcare post-COVID? Doctor, please.
So good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to be over here, and this organized by Mr. Sagar Kaushik. He had approached me, and he's doing good work organizing these webinars, because in this time of social distancing, this is the best way that the community can be in touch with each other, and the intellectual and learning messages can be spread through the medium of webinar. So he's attempting to do this, and I wish him all the best. What has happened is that in public policy, after the pandemic of COVID-19, we will find that public health will be a very major part of it. Public health will be one of the most important part of public policy. And there's another thing which is going to happen. For example, I think Tata Motors has reported a loss of 10,000 crore, and a lot of companies are posting very big losses. And there will be less CSR available to carry out the social programs because of the losses of very large number of industries which are going to go in losses. The amount of CSR spending will be less. However, some sectors of the economy continue to do well, like the FMCG sector, the pharma, the healthcare, agriculture sector, then the IT sector. These are in fact continuing maintaining good health. And the oil is down, the oil sector, which was a major part of CSR. Big companies like Reliance, then ONGC, Indian Oil Corporation, HPCL, BPCL, and all these, they are posting big losses now. and they were a very big contributor to the CSR budget. So theirs will be down. And in India, the public health expenditure was less than 2% of the GDP. In the USA, it is greater than 17%. So we need the private sector to fill up the gap, which is there. And this is an opportunity to train more people for public health. This is a greater opportunity COVID-19 presents. And two things will come out of healthcare after COVID-19. Number one, there will be increase in telemedicine because less people will go directly to the hospital and the clinic and all. They will have a fear of infection and all that. So there will be an increase in telemedicine will start taking place. And number two, online deliveries will increase. So things like e-pharmacy and all that online delivery of healthcare. These are the two things which I envisage will increase. So this is what I would like to say. Thank you.
Dr. Huj, like say what is happening now, see government has shifted a part of it, all operations to health. Will that continue?
Government is focusing on COVID-19 because it's a pandemic, which is affecting very much the life and all. And if it spreads to the entire population, the healthcare infrastructure will not able to handle it. So that is why the government has shifted all the focus towards containing this as much as they can do it. But they have only been partly successful because it's a very infectious type of disease. So once the pandemic, influenza had lasted, Spanish flu, influenza in 1920 lasted for 3 years. And in that population, it killed 30 million people. So I don't know whether COVID will reach that level or no, or before that a vaccine may come out of that, before that.
Thank you, Dr. Huj.
Yes.
I would like to invite Praveen Karan. Praveen Karan is head of the group CSR at Spark Minda, Ashok Minda Group. He has a cumulative experience of more than 15 years of community development and CSR. He is a postgraduate in rural development from XISS, aspires to serve as a catalyst for development of the less privileged section of the society. He is recently chosen among the 25 CSR professionals of the country by CSR Times and was also declared among the 50 most influential leaders in CSR by World CSR Congress. Praveen, you know Dr. Huj, he has done such a wonderful work in health. And you are also involved in health with a lot of people. How do you react to what Dr. Huj said, that what will happen after COVID? Praveen, please.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Upadhyay, and thank you to the organizers, first of all, for inviting me. I work for an organization called Spark Minda Group, which is an automotive company, and I take care of corporate social responsibility for the group. And under the umbrella of CSR, healthcare is also one of the needs that we have identified for the community that we work with to reach. And we have some of the projects in healthcare. But before I come to the reference of those projects, I first would like to answer to your question, post-COVID. A lot would depend on the people, first of all, because it is a pandemic at a very, very large scale. And none of the countries, the best of the infrastructure, which was there in some of the European countries for healthcare, they could also not be able to handle with lesser population density. India is having one of the highest population density, so we cannot actually expect all the way the infrastructure to address to the problem. Although, you know, the government of India is effortful, I do agree. I mean, if I take a reference of the budget, which is of last year, which is like close to 70,000 crores and 1.25% of the total GDP for healthcare, I don't think that this is a sufficient amount to be invested for healthcare. But none of the governments around the world had ever predicted that a situation like this would come. And just before the pandemic, the budget was announced for 2020, which in fact is lesser than the previous year. So none of the governments actually were prepared. But the time has come definitely to introspect. We have to start with the narrative that the world needs to be ready. And a country like India, which has a very, very high density of population, will have to prepare themselves for the future to come. If there's no life, there is nothing. You can't just earn and live in this world. So I truly appreciate the government of India for prioritizing life before livelihood, and therefore the lockdowns were imposed and adhered. What is most important, Dr. Upadhyay, what I think is the people's role is very, very important here, more than the government, number one. Number two, when we talk of healthcare, we always look at bigger hospitals, government programs. We forget the rural India. We have one of the largest program of the world, which is National Rural Health Mission, and the infrastructure and a setup, the bureaucratic setup for it, the ASHA workers at the grassroots level, and the representatives at the block level, the CMOs at district level, and the state machineries to ensure the healthcare services. This all have to effectively work to ensure the rural healthcare. Number three, which I foresee, rightly said by Dr. Who's, that telemedicines would be the next, healthcare priority. Number four, what I see that the medical tourism, which was there in some of the cities in India, and we were able to earn a good revenue out of it. I seriously find that there would not be much of the scope in the years to come, even post-COVID, for at least for a couple of years. The medicines for the immunity, antibodies, I can foresee the business for it. People would try to keep themselves fit. That is one of the opportunity which I can foresee as a market. There are many other needs. I would like to take one of the reference of one of the projects that we have done, and which is one of the basic needs for the community at large, which is menstrual hygiene for women. Women in villages, women in the slum areas. We are working in 5 states for this project: Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Haryana. We started this with a very basic health camps that we used to organize in the areas where we work, and we identified that there are issues related to anemia. There are women who are prone to vaginal disease. They have reproductive disorders. They have issues of menstrual cycles, pregnancy, MMR, IMR, and collecting all these facts. We conducted a survey with an organization called Global Hunt Foundation all the way some 4 or 5 years before. And after conducting the survey, we found some of the alarming statistics. 79% of the menstrual blood is dirty and impure. That is the understanding of the women. Dr. Upadhyay, 77% call menstruation as a social taboo. If I take the reference of this one subject of preference or priority, I find that there's a lot of work to be done. We also have identified a program where we'll be working with the women and we'll be reaching to them for ensuring their menstrual hygiene, family planning, reproductive health. We have our partners like Pathfinder International with whom we are working. We are registered with our commitment with United Nations, Every Woman, Every Child project. And we in fact have reached to some 3,000 women with this project. And in the years to come, we have also seen very good consequences for the project that we have undertaken and we have executed in these few states. Post-COVID, I can foresee that this could again be one of the most basic needs for our community, majorly in the rural bends of our country. I also would like to take the last minute to tell you that we are planning for a new project that we'll be doing for the women inmates of the prisons in India. We are going to start this project with Haryana prison, where we are going to organize menstrual hygiene, family planning, reproductive health sessions all the way inside the prison, and we do it for the women inmates. We also will be ensuring the production of sanitary napkins and supply of it. So we are trying to get into this model. We are yet in a conception stage, and we are having discussions with the authorities about it, and we are also trying to reach Dr. Kiran Bedi's foundation for doing it. So at last, I would say, Dr. Upadhyay, that we have a very, very important time to come. This virus may affect a lot of people, but we have to be ready at individual level, at community level. Government is doing their job. They may further add some more budget for the years to come. The CSR budget, as Dr. Hu said, I do not find much of the size of the budget in the years to come, because this year there's hardly any impact because there's a calculation of previous 3 years. But the years to come would be really be critical. Why? Because the calculation for this year would be coming in 21-22, and another 2 years. That's the 3 years calculation. I can foresee that there'll be lesser budget available in the years. So we all have to be ready. I stop here, Dr. Upadhyay. Thank you.
Thank you, Praveen. It's so nice to have you with us always. And you always talk about the community, the people, the rural areas. I also have with me Dr. Ajay Gambhir. Dr. Saab has been, he's known as a go-to general physician. He has been in this field for very long, and he's known to his families that he works with, the communities he works with, and also he keeps on constantly upgrading himself with the knowledge. Being with the community, Dr. Saab, I want to know from you what Dr. Hu said, that the CSR is going to be affected in the coming years, and what Praveen has been talking about linking to the community. Where do we stand when it comes to COVID, and what is really the effect of COVID on health system that we have? Dr. Gambhir, over to you, please.
Thank you, Dr. Upadhyay. I've been working as a clinician, and I have got post-graduation in public health. So very rare people have done pediatrics and public health. And so what I've come to the conclusion, and having a part of the Delhi Medical Council and the National Tactical Advisory Committee on Immunization and part of some Niti Aayog meeting, I've been a part of civil society. So first thing, my comments are going to open and very creative and critical also. So I think along with the CSR, we have to see the PSR. The PSR means professional social responsibility. So professional social responsibility, what we are missing, has to be added to the CSR. Definitely corporates have come, and definitely it is to achieve the goal of SDG, which came at the same time. But what I am seeing post-COVID, now we want to achieve SDG by CSR, and what we have learned in COVID, post-COVID will be a time what we have done during the COVID time. So first, I totally agree with my early speakers. Technology, let it be telemedicine or any other technology, is going to have a major role. Having lockdowns and other things have a major role. Number two, we must admit that we were not prepared. We have to be very critical about it. And I had gone through, I was a part of the disaster management committee as a part of the Indian Medical Association, and the people sitting and working in a disaster, they do not know what is happening in health. The disaster for them is only Bhukamp. Is only having at the seacoast. They never know what was bioterrorism. Though we were trying to educate them, we told them, but they were not sensitized. So there is something we have to know each other. We have to know each other's strength. We have to know what the disaster means. And during Disaster Act, we are seeing there has been a collapse of the total centralization of the government. So first we have to see that during Disaster and Epidemic Act, we cannot work in silo. Our governments have been working in silo, and hospital, I call it the apex center of the disease. So I have to differentiate between the health and the hospital. We were so much dependent upon the hospital for small issues, which we have realized that we need not go to the hospital, and we have to have a public interventions with a proper tool. So I will take the problem of India, which I see it, and I've been consultant to the different governments, and the impact we have made is in a very, very different without spending much of the money. So the last part I will say of the CSR is partnership and collaboration. So I'll stress on that. Till we do not have a partnership amongst each other, a collaboration amongst each other, and we work that Vocard will do this work, or Praveen will do this work, or Koshik will do that work, it is not possible. So there will be a more scope, more need for a leadership. So I am looking for a leadership in health, and leader in the health which can take the partnerships and the collaboration along to have the right impact. Number one, technology is going to have a very important role to do that. Number three, what we have realized, we have to be very tolerant and critical of these systems. Whether I'm doing wrong, whether you are doing wrong, we should sit and have definitely some critical points. And then we have seen that the innovation and creative things are not there in India. We must admit that till we are not creative, and the people who are not recognizing the creative. So my expectation from the people who in the CSR who are funding will be creativeness and the effectiveness. I'm ready to work with all. I must tell you a few examples. The hand washing and the sanitizer, we started, I'm a neonatologist and a pediatrician. So you started with that community. I saw there a lot of infection in the OTs, and I accredited a lot of hospitals through JSI, NABH and other thing. And the one part I say was the infection control was the minimum which was addressed, especially the hand washing and using of the sanitizer. 3 years back, we made the module of the hand washing and other thing, and we had a very big program on the NDTV, and Amitabh Bachchan called, and we had a lot of programs. But the government did not take up. Government thought this is a small issue. This is a very small issue. Hand washing, sanitizer is a very small issue. Then we went on the occupational health, taking all the masks. And I find out when we say that this mask has to be produced in India, then we don't get support from the government. So there I look for the CSR, that some of the CSR will come forward to see that if I am going for prevention and the occupational health, so I must support that. Some of the ideas given to us was taken by the Chinese company. Now this is the problem which I see in India. The ideas are innovations. We only follow the idea which are only in the market. I am there that this is the time we have to learn post-COVID, that the new idea have to be groomed, youngsters have to be groomed, and definitely the reception of the seniors have also to be taken. And post-COVID, we will have to sit and have whatever the Prime Minister has told, make in India. We started making a lot of things in India, but ultimately when that model went to China, it was made in China. So idea was made in India. I tell you, making the CPAP, oxygen delivery system in the pediatrics age group, it was all idea taken by the Chinese company, cleared by the FDA, CDCA, sold in America. And none of the Indian company made it. Even in diapers, we had a problem, and we gave a lot of models after working with the Odisha government. That idea was taken by Pamper, not by any of the Indian company, not Indian Pamper, but American Pamper when I was called to America. So I want the people who are at the helm of affair of the CSR, is that one thing I have seen, that some of the CSR are only looking for the visibility. I am saying post-COVID, we must work for the outcome and the effect. So that part, this thought process have to be changed. So I'll tell what we need in India is availability, AAA availability, where we can help, accessibility of the health, affordability. It can be done by any means. Asha's is a good example someone gave, but how I do strengthen it. So when I was under pressure that only DM or some of the neonatologists trained in PGI and AIMS can work in Bihar, we trained the local doctor and the nurses, and we found that mortality rates will go down. So making confidence of the local manpower. What we have seen, availability, accessibility, affordability, we cannot do it without the manpower. Now we see technicians are not there, doctors are not there, paramedicals are not there. So this field has been totally ignored, and the paramedicals are not getting salary. Now if you see the salary of the microbiology technician, you see the advertisement daily, they'll give you 10,000. So people go to commerce side. So something support from the corporates is definitely required. Training and teaching and capacity building is definitely required under the things. Tisra, the action and the activism and the advocacy. The corporates can do the advocacy. Advocacy plays a lot of part because CSR people are working as near to the government guidelines of the SDG. So if I do a good advocacy with the bureaucrat and with the leader, my impact is very high. So post-COVID, we have to see that using the less of the money which will be available, making a more partnership, and we will be able to have a more impact to do that. So I am very critical. We have to be very creative. We have to be very communicative. Communication, especially today, just had an interview on the TV on the whether the vaccine will come or not, because I was in the National Committee of Vaccine. So this communication which we are getting on the plasma and also on the vaccine, we have to sit down and have to have a right communication strategies so that most of the people are together. So I see a lot of confusion, and the CSR has to go from confusion to clarity, and we have to communicate better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gambhir. I'd like to invite Dr. Suchin Bajaj, who is the founder director of Ujala Cygnus Hospitals. Ujala Cygnus is currently operating 12 hospitals in Delhi, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, and Haryana with a combined bed strength of 1,200 beds and more than 1,800 employees with a vision to provide super specialty and emergency healthcare. Suchin is an avid healthcare investor and is associated with multiple health companies as investor, board member, and mentor. He is on the TBIU board of IIT Delhi and is also a member of the advisory council of the Minister of State for Health, Shri Ashwin Chaubey. In addition to numerous other awards and accolades, Sachin has received the Worldwide Achievers Healthcare Excellence Award 2014. Dr. Suchin, what Dr. Gambhir has been telling us about healthcare, since you are indirectly operating yourself a lot of healthcare, I would like to listen to you and let us know how are the things at ground at this point of time. Dr. Suchin, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Upadhyay. I think I've logged in through Sagar's some secret email ID, so my name is also showing as Sagar on the screen.
That's why I could not find you first.
Yeah, Sagar gave me a special login ID, I think. So yeah, so thank you very much for having me here. And we are living through very strange times. Everybody is going through strange. The entire world has been seeing very, very strange things in the last 3 to 4 months. The best of economies have struggled to keep up pace. There has been shortage of PPEs, shortage of healthcare workers, shortage of ventilators, shortage of equipment, everything. And India, I think, has come out relatively well. We were thinking we'll be swarmed with cases, but I think the entire healthcare ecosystem has really stood up and asked to be counted. Not just the doctors, the healthcare workers, the GDAs, the nurses, the PPE production companies, the ventilator production companies, the equipment manufacturers. I think everybody has stood up very quickly. So on the ground, we run 12 hospitals, out of which 3 are now fully COVID hospitals. One of them is a dedicated COVID center. So I also work as a COVID physician on the front line. So I've been doing COVID duties in the ICUs as well, because as expected, a lot of staff has fallen sick, and when one of our physicians fell sick, so I had to cover for him for around 8 to 10 days. So I've seen situations very close to the ground. The good things that have happened is that none of the people that we work with has shied away from doing duties. So none of them have said we can't do this because it's too scary and our family members are not allowing us. So 1,800 people in our organization, every one of them has stood up and said that yes, I'll be there. people have fallen sick and immediately on recovering have rejoined duties. It is not like they've fallen sick and disappeared completely, that, oh, I had COVID, so I can't come back to hospital now. One of our residents was really sick, went to, so we have admitted patient, but she became really sick, and that time we were not allowed to do plasma therapy, which we are now. So she was transferred to one of the bigger hospitals in Delhi where she underwent plasma therapy as well, was in ICU, and now is back and doing duties as well. And now she's like, I am a recovered COVID patient, so I have nothing to fear. So I'll do all the duties and take all the COVID deliveries.
Yes, Sagar. Sagar, can you resolve the issue?
I think the problem is at their end only, sir, because all other are
Okay.
working fine, sir. So maybe the problem with the net is their end only.
I think till we rejoin him, can I request Dr. Vivek Gupta? Dr. Gupta, are you there? Dr. Gupta? Hello?
Sir, I'm calling Dr. Vivek Gupta. Just give me a moment, sir.
Okay, please.
Okay. Because he is in a clinic, sir. So maybe some patient and all that. sir.
Sagar is back. Sagar can continue.
Sorry, sir.
Sagar can continue, na? You had. You want
Sir,
to
I'm
continue?
already no, sir. I'm already done, sir.
Okay.
So, Suchin sir is back.
So let me go to you, Dr. Gambhir.
Sir, Upadhyay sir, excuse me.
Yeah.
Suchin sir is back, sir.
Sure, most welcome, please.
Sorry, I got dropped off. So our OPDs went to zero completely. So we were scared that our regular patients who like diabetics, hypertensives, cardiac patients, they would be denied of care that they needed, and we didn't want them to get complicated and come back later. So we had been thinking of doing some sort of telemedicine facilities for a long time. We've been running hospitals for the last 8 years now. We were always thinking we should do some telemedicine, but then we always बहाने बनाने सबको आते हैं ना कि नहीं हम तो रूरल में काम करते हैं, छोटे शहरों में काम करते हैं, वो मतलब वहाँ पे टेलीमेडिसिन चलेगा ही नहीं, लोगों के पास टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, कैसे करेंगे, सोचते रहे everybody like we are so busy with the daily scut work that every time it was postponed. But when it really hit us that these are zero, patients are not coming at all, how do we keep in touch and how do we provide services? So we launched our telemedicine platform in 2 days flat. 2 दिन में we started, and last month we did 35,000 telemedicine consults in our organization. So that really took off, the telemedicine, and it is a behavior change that will be very difficult to reverse. I think people are now really looking forward to talking to doctors on the phone. They don't want to travel. They don't want to find a parking space. They don't want to lose their whole day's earning just to go see a doctor and discuss the blood sugar and come back. So entrepreneurs do this. I think we have a habit of doing this, that we jump off the cliff first and then build the parachute on the way down. I think we've done it a lot of times, and this time we have been just pushed off the cliff, and we didn't choose to jump. But we have been building a lot of parachutes. So a lot of things, we streamlined our supply chains completely. We reduced our expenses by about 25%, which we thought was never possible. We thought we were a very lean organization. We work in low cost healthcare. We work in small towns. Most of our patients are Ayushman beneficiaries. So we were recognized as the first hospital to do a cardiac procedure and angioplasty under Ayushman. We were the first to do a mitral valve replacement under Ayushman. We were the first one to be given a golden certificate for Ayushman. As an organization, we are treating the largest number of Ayushman patients across the country in one organization. So we thought that we were already very efficient. If you need to be sustainable while treating Ayushman and poor patients, you need to be very, very efficient. But we found newer ways to get more efficiencies. We reduced our costs even more when we were really pushed against the wall. So some things have been good. Some have been, of course, very. We've seen a lot of issues with some people troubling our healthcare staff, chucking them out of their tenanted accommodations, not allowing them to go back home. So we have had to arrange accommodations. One RW actually filed a case against us in court saying that we should not treat COVID patients near their houses. So those things also did come up, but yeah, overall it's been good. We've done a lot of new events. So we launched our rural healthcare initiative called Sehat in these days. So we are now going village to village, setting up rural centers, because as Praveen also said, it is going to be more and more local. The world is going to get closed more and more. So there will be no medical tourism. People will be afraid to go to big cities. People will want healthcare as close to their house as possible in the post-COVID era. So we need to go out to them rather than them coming to us. So we can go out to them through either telemedicine or physical clinics or whatever. So we are doing a lot of things on the ground, and it's always very wonderful to see the wonderful things that this entire panel is doing as well.
Thank you, Dr. Suchin Bajaj. I have with me now Dr. Vivek Gupta. Dr. Vivek Gupta is a skilled senior interventional cardiologist presently working with Indraprasth Apollo Hospital, New Delhi. He is founder, course chairman for International Cardiology Teaching Course, Indo-European course on revascularization. He is founder, course chairman for International Cardiology Teaching Course, Indo-European course on revascularization. Doctor, these have been different times. As others also said, we are doing things differently. How do you react to the present situation, and what should we all do?
Thank you very much. I think I'm clearly audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but as I requested to you earlier, I would also share some slides. So I'm allowed to do that?
Yes.
Okay, because I will talk a little more comprehensive, and I may require about 8 minutes to
Most welcome,
discuss about COVID, and as a cardiologist, and also I have done a lot of webinars for COVID with international American, Germans, Italian. So I would like to share a few things which are known partly to the people and partly not known, because of although media is teaching a lot of things, but as a medical point of view, I will give a little more detail. I'll not talk much of CSR, has been already been said. And you all are the masters. I am the master of this cardiology and also a little of virology. So I'll talk a little of that, if you don't mind. So,
sure, sir. Most welcome.
Screen sharing has to be, actually, I requested Jeet that I should be allowed screen sharing. So this is, I think they have to do it now, because they have to make me co-host or something like that. Who's taking care of this? Because when I do
Again, please.
Host disabled participant, please.
Sir, allow me. Just give me a moment, sir. I'll do it.
Okay. So, we have been suffering since November 2019, and there is still not a real magic drug. We have seen in Apollo Hospital, Delhi, we are treating about, we have now about 270 dedicated beds. It's one of the largest. We have a 700 bed capacity in Apollo Hospital, Delhi. And because of my social circle, personally, I have treated more than 20, 30 per week. I mean, overall. So because one patient is hospitalized, it will take about 10 days to him. And a few have been
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, okay.
Now it's done.
Okay, so I will give a quick review of COVID, and that will be interesting to you, but I'll skip few slides. Okay, so COVID-19 as of July 2, what is it? Global perspective, 11 million deaths, 5,24,000. If you see this, by 3rd of July, it is 11 million, 30th May, it was 6 million. So it is still rapidly increasing, and we have to be careful. 1 million on April 2, and 3rd July is 11 million worldwide. Overall doubling time in India is about, I was speaking to Mr. One of the cabinet ministers, now they're coming to 21 days, not 14 days. And if you see this today India figure, I have missed the slide. Sorry. So we all know that we don't want to discuss about the numbers. What I was trying to highlight today was regarding the lockdown. So on lockdown was in Italy, if you see the curve, they started on lockdown when the curve was flattening. Similarly, Russia and Spain also did the unlockdown when the curve started flattening. But in India, the things were a little different, and we started unlockdown when the curve was still going up. So we discussed with our minister and others, everybody, and we felt that actually we cannot wait for economy because economy was very important. This is few highlights, the shifting geography of COVID, because the COVID has restarted in few other centers, and Delhi is still spiking. Few of the things which I have taken from the newspaper, and the reason why they have increased the testing. Contact tracing app, I don't know how many people are still using it, but I am using it personally, Arogya Setu. I will request through this medium that everybody should have this contact tracing, and how it works, I'll let you know. Because if somebody gets positive, because a lot of people are watching this, and I want to tell to the public also, you may be aware, but the public may not be, how it works, because a lot of people are having a lot of thought process that it takes piracy issue and a privacy issue. I would like to tell on the behalf of myself and other people from the government that this is most safe. It works like this. For example, if somebody gets positive, then his mobile is already linked to Arogya Setu, and within 14 days, all the people who have come in contact with that mobile will be showing that you have been in contact with somebody, and therefore you have to be careful. This is how it works. If somebody is positive and he has not tested, then of course it is useless. Because once it is tested, it goes to government website, and government website immediately linked to that mobile, and then they trace 14 days before that whosoever has been in touch, they'll get that. This is today news that people are actually, I want to tell you that this is not pneumonia alone. As a cardiologist, most of the patients' death have been because of heart attack and stroke, because this is a prothrombotic condition. Prothrombotic means there is a hypercoagulability of the blood clots, and these patients actually, they have either a stroke or acute MI or myocardial arrhythmias, and they die. So I give you one example. In Apollo Hospital, we had one patient who became COVID negative, and we were almost thinking of discharging him, a very big man in terms of net worth. And one fine morning, he had cardiac arrhythmia, and he died. We could not save him despite the hospital. So this is a virus tracker you get in the news. But today, as I told you, that the overall figure, the India is still at number 4. And India was, if you see this figure, this was May 28, India was at 10. It has jumped to 8. Because of whether it is because of increased testing or because the spike is still not reached, we don't know. But of course, this testing has been a big challenge, and this is going to be. So this is what, when nations ease lockdown. So Peru, Mexico, Chile, USA, UK, they all did it unlock down when the curve was flattening, but India had to do despite this. Today news is very important that hospitalization early should be done. A lot of people are being quarantined. Home quarantine is a good thing. As our Chief Minister has said, home quarantine is a very important part. But if you have early symptoms, that means if you have need for the oxygen, or you're getting breathless, X-ray is bad, your markers D-dimer and IL-6 are high, that means that's an inflammatory thing, you have to hospitalize. This is how we are working these days. We are doing angiography, angioplasty with the help of absolute mask and everything. This is short of PPE kit. We are not using this, but we are already covered with a gown and mask, everything. I should tell you that we have been doing angioplasty earlier even without face mask or headgear. There was no need because angiography, angioplasty is non-surgical. We don't use a blade even. So this is what Apollo is trying to treat. This is May 28. I had I was interviewed how the Apollo is planned, and this was Republic Bharat, and this is just a figure. So we are doing angioplasty. The economy is down, and everybody is worried about the economy. The word economy, I'm not going to disease, but I would like to tell you last few minutes about the virus, how the virus works actually. This is a virus which goes inside the cell. It produces antigen presentation, then cellular immunity, and then there's the humoral immunity. This is how the antibodies are produced. Lately, the government has also started antibody testing. Antibody, I'll tell you later. So this is how the virus works. Virus is very serious virus because the corona S protein has been reported to be significant determinant of virus entry into host cells. So this is how IgM IgM antibodies, they disappear at the end of week 12, while IgG antibody can last for a longer time. So when you are testing the antibodies, you are testing actually IgG antibodies. But in this virus, especially, there has been a seen that the virus, the antibody formation not to that great extent as it should be. So this is why we are worried, because the patients who have recovered, and when we take their antibodies for the purpose of plasma treatment, we find that 50% do not have adequate antibody. That means this virus does not produce a herd immunity or long-lasting immunity. This is a very major concern. So whether vaccine will be helpful or not, time will tell. So cytokine storm is something which is the patient dies, which is still there is 3% mortality. Overall 5% in Delhi and Bombay, but 3% mortality is still very high. If you do a bypass surgery, we say only less than 1%. If you see any other major surgery like kidney transplant or you do a liver transplant, the surgical risk is only less than 1% or 1%. But here it is 5%. So if you're losing 5%, somebody was talking to me on phone without naming them in front of the cabinet minister. He said Ebola and influenza and other viruses, SARS had a higher mortality, but that contagiously, and then I said countered it, the level of infection, the possibility of this virus to infect others is very high. Because if you come in contact without mask, but I tell you, very important, if you are masked, even if you come and sit in front of the COVID patient, you will not be infected. This is very, very important message I want to give. Don't get panicky. It's not like AIDS that you have sex and you get it. So, but of course, it's more dangerous than AIDS because now the cytokine storm is the last part where there is a multi-organ failure and patient finally dies and you can't do despite ventilator and rest of the medicines. Diagnosis is basically, I'm sorry, I'll take a little 5 more minutes because I want to tell you a little more about everything. The diagnosis is basically clinical symptoms, and then later on we have to do a RT-PCR test. But RT-PCR test is also not confirmed because you can get today negative and tomorrow you can be positive. This is very important point. As you must have seen the health minister of Delhi, he was negative one day and next day when he tested again because symptoms were lasting and he was positive. So the best way to confirm the diagnosis is actually not RT-PCR test, but actually this is a radiological diagnosis with the help of CT scan. This is a ground glass appearance. So whenever there's a doubt that the patient has clinical symptoms clear cut of COVID-19, for example, pneumonia, for example, cough, dry cough and fever, and you're not controlled, and RT-PCR is negative, please do this CT scan, and then we confirm it. 3 tests which are available today is RT-PCR test, which takes about 12 hours to 48 hours, 24 hours time. Rapid antigen test is very important, which has been lately introduced by the government, which is again a respiratory secretion, nasal secretion, but it is the test is available within half an hour. This is important. So most of the today the government doing this testing, but this is a less sensitivity and more specificity. So once it is positive, it is positive, but it's negative, you're not sure. Then third is antibody test. Apollo has also introduced antibody test. Antibody test is a blood test, like a blood sugar test, but it does not tell you whether you are infected today. It will tell you that you have been exposed. But if you don't have symptoms, you have antibody test is positive, that means you have been exposed, you are safe, and you are like vaccinated. This is the only thing. But if you are exposed and you have symptoms and you have antibody test which is positive, you have to quarantine yourself. So these are different things which are coming. Very important thing today newspaper I want to share that. Okay, before that I will tell you how the medicines work. Why there is no still Rambal? Abhi tak Rambal kyun nahi aaya hai? Virus enters into the cell, and there at the level of where membrane fusion and endocytosis, I think it's very small, but hydroxychloroquine works at the level of this. It has an antiviral activity. There's no doubt. I'll discuss about that, why it is not being used today. Remdesivir and Favipiravir, which are now FDA approved and also available in India, they work at the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase body. So this is the 2 places where they work. Coming the various medicines which are available, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, antiviral medicines, IL-6 inhibitor inhaled. These last 4 are actually when the patient is absolutely serious, patient is on oxygen, he's just short of ventilator, he's on, then of course you have to use this thing, otherwise not. What are the markers? I have not a slide, but I will tell you, if you are not having symptoms, and if you have mild symptoms, and you don't want to do RT-PCR test, because only symptomatic patients, a guideline today ICMR, only symptomatic patients should be tested by RT-PCR. The thing which I personally feel you can do inflammatory markers like D-dimer and also IL-6. If they are within normal limit, I check myself, they are normal, so I feel that I'm safe. So other than RT-PCR, these two inflammatory markers, I will make the slide in the next presentation, are very important, and the hospital will tell you this thing. Hydroxychloroquine has been a very important part. Donald Trump got it imported from India, and now I will say that it is still very important. Despite lot of debates from USA, Italy, France, this is a proven antiviral effect, number one. Healthcare workers clearly should take this hydroxychloroquine. Not only healthcare workers, those who are going to field. Now there is unlockdown. People are going out. Few people are on the mask, few are not. My clinical suggestion is that we should take hydroxychloroquine if your ECG is normal. Don't get panicky about the cardiac symptoms and all. I'm a cardiologist, I know. I'm using it. My father, my mother, my parents, everybody has taken it. The dosage is very simple. 400 milligram twice a day for 1 day, and then 400 milligram once a week for 7 weeks, or continue if the virus does not go. So I'm skipping all the slides which I had because in the interest of time, but I tell you that it has a preventive modality. Whether it is useful, because America showed that it is causing more risk, it was because those patients were highly serious. They did not check the QTC interval on ECG and they gave it blindly. Don't give it blindly. Whenever I get a patient or a healthcare worker, I give a prescription. I write, do ECG. If QTC is normal, which is less than 150, take it. It is going to reduce your viral load. It is not prevent you from infection. This is very important. Hydroxychloroquine, the infection prevention is only through the mask and covering your face. It will, if you get infected, you will not become serious. This is the beauty of this medicine. Please take it. Everybody, your QTC is normal, because now unlockdown has happened. You are going to office. People are working. Few are working from home. Few are traveling in buses. Metro will start. You never know who is infected. Then he may be a symptomatic carrier. Repurposed medicines, I'm not going details. I have to just Favipiravir, a little word about this medicine. You must have seen a lot of WhatsApp message, Fabiflu coming, Glenmark company. What it is? Actually, the phase 3 clinical trial has shown, and that has shown that those patients who are moderately symptomatic, moderately means they require oxygen, should be given this medicine. IL-6 inhibitor is a very important medicine. It has a high side effect, but it prevents death. It prevents death in the patients who are serious. Then coming on to the planning overall, initial treatment, this is for public, vitamin C, 100 milligram plus. That means if you take 500 milligram, one tablet of vitamin C is not going to do anything. I prescribe 2 tablets thrice a day of vitamin C, then only your immunity will go up. Then zinc has got some effect. Then I told you hydroxychloroquine. And then of course, the other medicines which should be given as preventive, I still feel I take Chyawanprash and I take Ashwagandha. They are immunity booster. If you get infected, if your immunity is high, you will not get even fever. So you have to keep your immunity very high. Diabetics have to be controlled. The mask is a very important point. The last point, this is, I think I have exceeded my time. So this is a very important point. On March 26, I was on television. I said everybody's face should be covered. Similarly, then on March 29, till that time, there was no guideline from Government of India or from anybody that everybody who goes out, even for mother dairy work or any other vegetable, they should cover their mask, because this was not clear whether it is airborne or not. I told at that time on March 29 that everybody should wear mask, and I was not scolded, but people said you are talking too much. But similarly, but in April, even I use the word angocha here. In April, our Prime Minister himself, you used the word gamcha, and therefore it was very important. The last thing which I want to tell you, the vaccine. India is racing faster than Oxford. This is very important. Oxford vaccine will be available by the end of the year. This is their presumption. They are in the phase clinical trials. More than 100 vaccines all over the world are in clinical human trial. Vaccines have been tested earlier only for the purpose in the animals, now the human trial. Yesterday news, India races to release first indigenous vaccine by August 15. Letter from ICMR, very strong letter has gone to the Pune Institute that you have to be faster, and they hope that by 15th August they can have some indigenous vaccine, which has already shown the effect in otherwise clinical trials. So correct, we have discussed about herd immunity is not a choice. Americans have told that herd immunity is not the choice, because even if you get immunized, first of all, your antibodies level are less, and secondly, it has a high mortality. Don't depend upon herd immunity. The Sweden has taken a back down, and Sweden was the worst country to be affected. They thought they will have herd immunity and they failed. So we have to learn from other people how India is preparing a lockdown. Ventilators should be avoided as long as possible. This is the news from America. To try to avoid ventilator till actually it is required. Means non-invasive ventilator which is covering with a pressurized machine. Once the patient goes into a ventilator, healthcare workers are worst affected. Plasma treatment, whether it is a very useful but has only efficacy of 80%, not 100%. China, whether it is a human virus or no, we don't know. But today morning, when our Prime Minister had gone to Leh, so he will be killing two birds with one. And of course, they will take if they go for war, which we don't want, then they will, of course, the land of China that is going to lead to China is whether it is there or not. COVID and heart, the last part of my slide, I will just finish with this last slide. Mortality. The patient over age of 80 years have 15% mortality. That means you have to take care of your elderly patient. Don't go, if you are moving out, don't go inside there. Just don't go near them without mask. Diabetes 5%, hypertension 6%. Overall, it is 5% for Delhi and 3% for overall India. So I must tell you, I got a call from the ministry. What is my view about the unlockdown? This was 26th of June at the behest of PMO. That as a prominent person, what do you think? I said very clearly, I think the unlockdown has been premature. I said I may be saying wrong, but I feel that lockdown should have continued a little more. But of course, it's my personal view, and they said, okay, it's your personal view. Then I said 6 months for mandate. It should be a mandate, means it should be a law that anybody found on the road without covering the face should be penalized. Unless we do this strict rule, India number will keep on growing, and our people in the country are not so much law abiding. So we have to enforce a challan. This is what Dubai did. This is what Italy did. We want to do this. We have to get rid of this. No medicine as of now. Vaccine is far away. I'm not too sure about 15th August. This was the news from ICMR, but I'm not too sure whether we will get it or not. MMR vaccine, last point. MMR vaccine has shown importance. I'm going to take it tomorrow maybe. What is MMR? MMR is measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. If we do it, maybe it is partly covering and controlling this. I'm stop sharing now and to come back because later people I would get bored. But medically, I feel that everybody's face should be covered. It should be covered if they are outside their office. For example, I'm sitting in my office. This is my office, and nobody else is coming except my secretary, and I've just taken it off because I want to show my face. Otherwise, face covering by mask or by cloth or by rumal or by angocha or by gamcha should be a mandate for the next 6 months. Otherwise, we will be having a major problem. Vaccine, even if it comes, may not be totally effective. It will be 70% effective. Don't get worried that vaccine aa gayi to hum bilkul theek ho gaye. Your own immunity is important. Thank you very much. With these words, I get other panelists to talk about it.
Thank you, Dr. Vivek Gupta. Sagar, how much time we have?
We are already running late by 6 minutes.
So I think let's give last 1 minute to Dr. Gambhir.
Sure, sir.
Dr. Gambhir, sir, can we have you for 1 minute?
The theme today was...
Sir, your advice to us?
Your theme was today CSR and what we have to do post-COVID. CSR will have to play a lot of important role. And one is the safety part of it. I must tell you, when this mask and PP kit, I'll start from there. When the mask and PP kit started coming, because I was working with the safety and the hand washing, then I asked government, I asked PMO, I asked Harshvardhan, who is our schoolmate. They had no answer, which PP kit to use. And I'm sorry, in spite of a lot of money available in India, a lot of CSR, a lot of industrial houses, we never had a PP kit which has been tested by the penetration test, the pressure test, and also the breathability test. On 10th of, after writing to DRDO head, who's one of the ex-DRDO head, whose children used to come to me, I rang him, he says, I'm now the Vice Chancellor, I've retired. So he put me to DRDO. DRDO on 10th of May only decided that we should have tests by the 8 labs. We should have 640 districts should have labs. So 8 labs, all DRDO labs in Gwalior, in Delhi, in Meerut, in otherwise the people who are going as the gun licenses, those are the areas. So what we are using, it is we are not license. What mask we are using, we are do not know. So this part we have to look into. Have I told you the allies? Number 2, let us have a India specific, I call it Indian adaptation. Let us have a India specific policy. We have seen, in spite of a good healthcare, so-called 15% America has failed, UK has failed. So I must have my good policy. And Vivek was in one program in Republic. And after that government, we had told the government, because I'm working with the international agency, that people who are coming from China and from Italy, they should not be allowed, they should be quarantined. So there was no question, it will spread, but we were late. So what we could have done better is one part of it. Surveillance part we have to strengthen. Post-COVID, surveillance has to strengthen. Non-infectious disease, infection disease have not gone. The other message is infection disease have not gone. We are still with corona, TB, swine flu, heart disease and diabetes. They thought India is also improving well. So we cannot write them off in a tropical country like us. We are not without dengue and typhoid. So we have to see what are the Indian data. So pre-data, we didn't know. My bureaucrats say I didn't have the data, I didn't have the evidence. We had the evidence, we had the expert. But I think expert sensitivity on disaster was not on the bioterrorism or the biomaterial. It was only on basis on the physical thing. So we have to be sensitive to the issues. We have to be sensitive to the data. We have to expand our experts. I say some of our experts failed very critically. I will say some of our experts sitting in the ministries failed us in lot of planning. Totally right, Vivek has told the lockdown should not have been opened or it should have been delayed. There were a lot of issues in the labor class. We are a society, we have to take everyone along. It could have been delayed for 3 days or 5 days. It wouldn't have mattered, but it should not have been opened because we see a lot of people walking down to Bihar and UP and other things. So we have to look India as a common society, not as a hospital or not as a village or urban area. It is a linking. Infection disease does not need border to spread. So this is my message, and we should not compete if we have done good or bad from America and UK. We should have our own model, India action plan, India specific plan. We call it Indian adaptation of the data and learning the experience from the other world. We should have our own expert, and we should be confident that though the mortality in India was less, morbidity is still high, and there's a lot of confusion on the plasma therapy. We had made a group for the doctors. I might have arranged more than 200 plasma therapy, but now the government of Delhi has come very late in the epidemic. So this initiative could have been taken by some of the persons from the industry and the CSR. So I think we should sit and have a brainstorming, and we should be critical and come with a very creative and an innovative solution for India, and we should be together.
Thank you, Dr. Gambhir. Dr. Vivek Gupta, it has been very informative. But most of our listeners are from CSR of companies. In the last 1 minute, I would like to have what is your advice to us people who work in CSR with the companies? Dr. Vivek Gupta, please. Unmute kar lijiye. Doctor, yeah.
Yes,
sure.
yes. Actually, before that answer, I missed one point. As Dr. Gambhir also was pointing out that our few of the government setups have been a little late. I'm not blaming them because we all are learning. There are few repurposed medicines which can be used and which should be tried. So one of repurposed medicine which has been given a sort of a letter to the ministry, and there is so much of red tapeism, I tell you. My father himself has been a worker, assistant director, generally retired. He had advised one medicine, and for 2 months spending in the office and no action, neither any return reply, because he feels that this medicine is so cheap and should be put in the clinical trial, which is just 14 days clinical trial without any side effect. What I mean to say, the government machinery has to speed up the things. Of some suggestion coming from a senior scientist, at least if they can reply, okay, we are not going ahead, that's okay. But if they should reply, and the medicine, which is, I'm not going to name it because it's confidential, should have been tested much earlier, not today. Till now, they have not done a simple clinical trial of 60 patients of 14 days. This is my hard mistake because I discussed with so many people. Okay, regarding the CSR, I would say that most of the companies already have a lot of budget for the CSR, but I'm continuing with the economical shutdown. But CSR budget should be used in a large scale. For example, distribution of free vitamin C. For example, distribution of free mask cover to a large population. A lot of people, they don't have it now. Angocha gamcha is okay, but agar ek proper mask ho, to unko lagega ki pehenna hi hai. Then of course, hydroxychloroquine, which is still debatable, but people will get. But for example, ashwagandha itself, agar ye CSR ke budget se aake sabko distribute ho jaye. What I mean to say is we can only do immune boosting effective to large population. And very lot of people, they give vitamin C, I will repeat again, 500 milligram only. 500 milligram की tablet आती है, which is much less. The results of vitamin C, जो immunity बढ़ाते हैं, एक research हुई है, उसमें है कम से कम 10 ग्राम दी जाए, 10 ग्राम. 10 ग्राम means more than 12 tablets. So still I at least give 5 gram per day, which is 2 tablets TDS. अगर CSR की बजट से immunity booster से अगर बंटवा दिए जाएं और actually specific mask बंटवाया जाए, क्योंकि रुमाल तो कोई बांधेगा ही नहीं, कभी बांध दे कभी नहीं, उतार के रखते हैं. And secondly, there should be a CSR message जाए टेलीविजन पे. अभी तो मैसेज जा रहा है कि आप सावधानी बरतिए, सैनिटाइज करिए, दैट्स ऑल. एक मैसेज जाए, होर्डिंग्स लगे, टेलीविजन पे आए, ऐड आए, FM रेडियो दे, which is of course chargeable है नहीं, I don't know गवर्नमेंट करती है, कि वो everybody should wear mask outside. अभी भी हम घूम के अपोलो से निकल के बाहर जाएंगे आप, if you see yourself, 50% will be without mask. 50% मास्क में कवरिंग नहीं करेंगे, हम मस्ती में घूम रहे हैं. तो व्हाट आई मीन टू से कि अगर CSR बजट इम्यूनिटी बूस्टर और फ्री डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन और हेल्पिंग बाय डिफरेंट एडवर्टाइजमेंट्स, अगर ये करेंगे तो वी विल बी एबल टू विन कोरोना फास्टर देन अदर कंट्रीज. वैक्सीन अभी बहुत देर लग रही है, कोई मेडिसिन अभी आएगी.
Thank you, Dr. Vivek Gupta. Over to Sagar. Sagar?
Yes, sir. So Nagin, we will take it forward, sir.
Okay.
Nagin, please.
Thank you all. We've had a very informative and intellectually stimulating session where various panelists have given their outlook about healthcare system post-COVID. So I'd like to just highlight some of the highlights. Dr. Hufaiza Kokriwala talked about increase in telemedicine, online delivery. Mr. Praveen Karn talked about working at rural areas, National Rural Health Mission. He touched upon decrease in medical tourism and what are other initiatives that his institution is taking care of right now. Dr. Ajay Gambhir talked about a very important thing called leadership between CSR and institutions, AAA, affordability, and the 2 A's. And Dr. Vivek Gupta threw light on intricacies of how to handle COVID, usage of mask, when to use hydrochloroquine. I think I did not know about this, so thank you so much. Ventilators should be avoided and taking care of elderly. So some of the points that he touched upon. And Dr. Suchin Bajaj talked about, he reiterated actually handling over 35,000 telemedicine calls. I think that would be the trend of the future, that we should take precaution and depend mostly on remote medical advice. I think thank you so much to you all to have been here and talking about all these important things that will help us and help the CSR as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Upadhyay, sir, Dr. Vivek Gupta, and Dr. Ajay Gambhir, sir. Thank you so much for coming, sir, joining us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.